Hello YouTubers, this video I will try to investigate acceleration phenomena with the help of hysteresis loop function. From physics we know that magnitude of inertia is mass or force is proportional to moving body mass. From second Newton law of motion, force F magnitude is product of mass and acceleration. All objects governed by this law of motion, from small flying mosquito to freight train. In sense of change of speed or direction, train is less maneuverable compared to mosquito. To accelerate or stop train requires much more time compared to mosquito. Similar means if we talk about force vector is self-similar to acceleration vector magnitude. A special case of acceleration is the Earth gravity force, where mass represented as weight of the body, and in this case mass is equal to absolute value unit. In classical mechanics and in hydrodynamics branch of classical mechanics, velocity is independent from mass. This is exception, because in all cases mass is not equal to unit. Other exception is light. Light is electromagnetic wave and a massless particle. It means that at the initial time period t equals 0, light speed is. And as we know from physics, one of the definitions of acceleration is velocity change per time. That only light as massless particle can have infinity acceleration. Light with zero mass can interact with usual material without slowing down in case of direction change. Hysteresis loop function shown in picture first been discovered in electrical science, not in classical rigid body mechanics. A hysteresis loop shows the relationship between the induced magnetic flux density B and the magnetizing force H. It is often referred as the BH loop function. Not going deep into details about electric science terms and relations, YouTube have very good video on this subject. Hysteresis loop explanation in very primitive way can be example. If you have iron nail and you contact with permanent magnet, after nail magnet separation, iron nail stays magnetized and nail becomes permanent magnet. But this magnetization requires time. This process of nail magnetization in contact with permanent magnet is not instantaneous. Same, if you demagnetize or change direction of nail north and south poles, process requires time. Ferromagnetic objects have inertia against magnetization or demagnetization, same as in classical mechanics acceleration or deacceleration. We can say that objects have resistance to magnetize or demagnetize. And these points on hysteresis loop have names: coercivity on x-axis and on y-axis retentivity. This phenomena happens in synchronous permanent magnet motors, where a magnetic iron core always keeps residue some opposite direction magnetic field when required at that moment. This residue magnetic field called parasitic magnetic field. Engineers try to avoid this phenomena in synchronous motors. Steam train internal engine piston starts from time t equals 0, and after quarter of circle rotation piston moves s1 distance in the engine's cylinder chamber. After another half rotation or total half rotation, piston moves another s1 distance, and total sum of both action is called full internal steam or combustion engine stroke length. Full circle rotation is the same as an steam inlet, only piston moves in opposite direction to discharge steam from valves into surroundings. Crankshaft makes full circle, not a piston. Only crankshaft rotation creates a sinusoidal periodic function, where capital T is time period per 1 second of full circle rotation. Fact that sinusoidal is non-linear function, but creates linear straightforward constant train motion. Explanation is simple because tangent velocity of cranks is also constant and not depends from sinusoidal function non-linear behavior. And it is secondary fact to our main title of hysteresis loops, but very important fact that rotation with constant angular velocity is described by periodic non-linear sinusoidal function. This fact be very important later. In picture we have such trigonometric periodic generalized hysteresis loop function in equation system from variable time t, where x coordinate represents piston movement distance, y coordinate represents piston velocity. A scalar a and b in generalized function represent function boundaries, where a b scalar is maximum value in x and y axis. An angular velocity rotation w shows periodic rotation of crankshaft in period time t. With parameters outlines hysteresis loop by showing that its trigonometric function similar to sinusoidal function shown previously, only introducing x-axis as distance measurement unit and y-axis as velocity of the piston in the internal combustion or steam engine from variable time t. Substance about the hysteresis loop function adaptation in classical mechanics is scarce or non-present online, so please take this presentation with grain of salt. Piston stands move from point 0 to point 1 from time t equals 0 and velocity v equals 0 till velocity v. In Descartes coordinate system, hysteresis loop starts from point where a piston starting point equals 0 and velocity equals 0 is here. And after piston movement distance s1, velocity v on hysteresis curve is here at number 1 position. So velocity increase is from v equals 0 till v. Maximum velocity Vmax is here at the center of Descartes coordinate system. From this point till point 1, velocity from maximum starts to decelerate. And all this time crankshaft rotates with constant angular velocity w, rotation per second or rotation per minute. Piston starts move to the right from point 1 to point 2 from velocity v till velocity v equals 0. This fact very weird and amazing, because straightforward movement of train and angular velocity or rotation of crankshaft is always constant value. Full stroke of piston movement is from standing point velocity equals 0, point 0 again till velocity 0 again. Same path and same values of velocity tendencies holds when piston moves into left direction, and full circle of periodic function is closed and process again starts with steam inlet. Only difference between inlet and outlet, that is velocity per same time period t. V, obviously steam is driving force of piston and train itself, is bigger than velocity of outlet per same time period t. In first chapter I mentioned about parasitic magnetic field leftover. More accurate, this definition is parasitic area. Bigger this area, bigger resistance, bigger energy losses. In our case, this area, of course, is mass of piston and friction between piston and cylinder walls. But biggest factor is torque resistance to movement, because crankshaft connected to transmission and transmission to wheels and wheels connected to ground, and steam energy must overcome this torque before rotating. Therefore, torque can be analogous to rigid body mass. But in reality, this parasitic area is useful, especially in internal combustion engine, where a full-grade testing motor octane number shows ignition timing measure against engine knocking phenomena. Fuel explosion inside engine chamber occurs so fast it can damage engine parts. That is why piston from velocity Vmax cannot suddenly stop to 0. First, theoretically, it will give infinite acceleration, and secondary, precaution against breakdown of internal combustion engine parts. So it requires smooth transition from fast piston velocity to full stop 0 velocity, and hysteresis loop function tendency can be the answer. What if we have scenario that piston motion works without any resistance to torque? Example, piston not connected to train wheels. In that case, in hysteresis loop equation, magnitude A equals 0, and we get such a new hysteresis loop equation. It means red color piston motion driven by steam or internal combustion engine gases, and return exhaust gas and piston motion in color blue takes the same time and becomes equivalent. The hysteresis loop in the middle have 0 parasitic area. Such scenario, the train engine not connected, is ideal, maybe to calculate maximum power, but in reality, even in most idealistic experiment, piston returning have friction in cylinder walls, and valves have sensitivity to open to exhaust gases, which in all cases requires time. So area equals 0 not possible even in most idealistic situation. The light is massless and lightest object on Earth. So before to understand electromagnetic wave light particle, we investigate object with mass example. Billiard ball interacting with billiard table perfectly elastic wall. Rigid ball with mass m and velocity v interact with elastic wall. This takes time delta t seconds. To compress wall according Hooke's law of elasticity and same time delta t according Hooke's law of potential angle to release wall bouncing back with velocity v. That is obvious fact, and this variant have zero parasitic area, except light particle, photon, with light velocity constant c after contacting reflecting surface, mirror, bounces with zero time delay. If you think from perspective of classical mechanics, where mass is big part of inertia, lighter the object, faster he can change movement direction. But for light, it's extreme situation. After contact with surface, now time delay happens. Instantaneous direction change with speed of light value. To understand time concept, it's better to understand time delay concept. Light have instantaneous acceleration and instantaneous deceleration. That is the reason why light have no coefficient half in kinetic energy equation. Light have duality. As we know, light is particle, photon, and at the same time electromagnetic wave and energy equal to Planck equation of energy, where energy proportional to frequency. Hysteresis loop of bouncing light is and specifically when coefficient equation magnitude A equals 0 is such. Angle of reflection takes not just same sine function angle, but also zero time delay. In the end of this video, a bit of science fiction. We have special hysteresis loop that a bit resembles boomerang shape and also resembles Darth Vader helmet rotated by 90 degrees. This resembles more our fictional Villa Cobra Commander leader helmet. Moral message of hysteresis loop in science fiction is that fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. Impulses of emotions can also have inertia, hysteresis loop tendency. That is not just science speculation, but science of human impulses. And I think that this can be partially true. Every motion, including emotions, have a time delay. That is all, folks. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.